Okay, folks, this is an update to my 2015 10S rule. Okay, I'm going to start with by some figures and facts. One, we're starting with the fact that there's a number of ways you can catch HIV. One's through groin sores, which is HSV. Another is hemorrhoids. Another is mouth sores and breast milk and sharing needles. Okay, now we got that out of the way. Now let's look at my 10S rule and some of the other things in here. The 10S rule basically was where I told you check for groin sores, both yours and your partner's, to determine whether or not you had a chance of catching AIDS from the person, or if they had AIDS. Basically, when it comes to HIV AIDS, you have, if you look at some of the, let's do some of the historical background on HSV2 real quick, because you'll see how it ties in once I get to that point. HSV2 in 2003 World Health Organization Global Survey of HSV, 2/3 of the African population had it. By 2012, that had dropped to 31%, over 50% drop. Now, from 2010 to 2016, in an African country known as Swaziland, HIV infections dropped 43%. Just out of the blue dropped. Now, in the United States, we had an outbreak, an epidemic of HSV in 1974 that lasted until 1994. Well, let's do some figuring. HIV takes about 7 years from infection to where it actually turns into cancer. So assuming that 7-year period, and you add 7 years to 1974, that comes up to 1981. Guess when the first recorded AIDS patient was in the United States? 1981. Now, deaths, the number of deaths that became noticeably large started in about 1988-89. The HSV epidemic was declared over in 94. That's almost 7 years later. It's actually a little under 6. So that's really close. Then it AIDS kind of stabilized as percent, then started dropping as a percent of the population. Then the aggregate number of deaths started declining, and the aggregate number of new infections started declining, even in the U.S. This happened in about 2008, 2010, and has gone on since then, which kind of makes you wonder. Then, if you look back at it, you wonder, well, what does HSV got to do with it? Apparently it has something to do with it. So, that being said, I'll tell you my 10S rules. There's a pre-play 10S check rule. What you're looking for is you're looking for groin sores. If you don't got them, you have a low chance of catching it from an infected person. If you have the groin sores, then you have a high chance of catching it from an infected person. This is based on a University of Washington study completed in 2006 on HSV HIV, where they estimated it was about, I think, 5 to 8 times more likely than normal if you had HSV that you could contract AIDS, HIV AIDS. And if I remember correctly, it was 80 to 90% of the population that had AIDS also had HSV or groin sores. Then there is my 10S rule, modified a little bit. Before you have sex with somebody, check them for groin sores, make sure they don't have hemorrhoids, and watch out for the needles. Hopefully you're not sharing needles. This helps you avoid 3 diseases: HIV, HSV, and hepatitis C. Then there is my 10 rule, probably the most important rule for youngsters. Kids in high school and college, that type of people is more important to them, probably. People that haven't got the AIDS virus yet in their system. Basically, what you do is you check your partner to make sure they don't have groin sores or hemorrhoids after you've had sex with them. And if you have shared needles, then you might want to go ahead and go to the emergency room and get PEP treatments. PEP treatments are pretty good at keeping you from catching the hive virus if you've been exposed to it. And that's 3 ways of being exposed to it. And it's a simple check in the morning after you've had sex or had a wild night or whatever. You've got 3 days from the night before. So if you had sex on a Friday night, you have Saturday, Sunday, you got to Monday night to get started on these medications for them to have effect. That's something you need to check with your doctor with and all that sort of thing. Then there's my prep rule. My prep rule is simple. If you successfully do PEP, or if you come into a situation where you find out you've got groin sores, or that you've developed hemorrhoids, or that you plan on sharing needles, or think you might be sharing needles, there's another treatment called PrEP treatment. That treatment allows you to avoid catching the AIDS virus, but it has to be taken every day, just like the regular AIDS medicine once you've got AIDS virus. So it's not really that, other than the fact that it'll keep you from catching AIDS, it's really no better monetarily than the old system was. But the PEP treatments can only takes 4 weeks. If successful, you don't have to worry about AIDS until your next sexual encounter. Well, that's it. Thomas Willis out. Have a good day.